it's at it. I think whatever's going on in his computer is out of my pay grade, as they say. But
it's all that porn.
We'll just switch.
There you go. Yeah.
All right, here we go.
There he is. The sex god himself, Steve Hernandez. Mm-hmm. What's going on, man?
Hey, bud. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. I kind of picked the wrong room to do this in. It's getting super hot up here now. So
up there? What do you mean? You got a second? Did you move?
Yeah, dude. We moved from that place like 3.5 years ago, and we just got a bigger house. But it has like a loft area, but we don't have like the AC doesn't really work up here, so it gets really hot. So it kind of sucks. But it sounds better up here than it does downstairs.
All right, then you picked the right place. You just got to suffer through it.
Yeah, you know.
For your art.
For my art, for my first world problems. So, hey, I was talking to Scott Lurs, who was on here a couple episodes back, and he said that you guys thought you had the coronavirus.
Oh yeah, we had it, like 99% sure.
Like, oh, okay.
We were at a wedding before. I think it was the 7th or 8th of March, and out of that wedding, we know like 6 or 7 people got sick. As of right now, out of those 6 or 7, one of them just straight up got very sick and got diagnosed officially with coronavirus. And then 3 other people from that 6 or 7 got the antibody test, and they have the antibodies now. But we all pretty much had the same thing. I never get headaches. Mm-hmm. It's just not something. But the day after the wedding was a Sunday, and we were hanging out with the groom's family, and I started to have a splitting headache. Like I don't get headaches in my life. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah,
and I was just like, man, this is so odd. I just kept talking to Julia and said, this is so weird. This headache, I can't shake it. The next day was a Monday, and we were sleeping all day. And I told her, I was like, what is going on with this? I don't understand why we're sleeping all day. Like, we were just exhausted. I was shortness of breath, all of that stuff. And then that Wednesday is the Wednesday where they shut down the NBA. And then Tom Hanks said that he had it. Yeah. And Tom Hanks' symptoms were the exact symptoms that I had. If you remember up to that point, it was just like, oh, you have this crazy wet cough. You got all this shit. And then Tom Hanks came out and he was like, hey, man, I don't got any of that stuff. I'm just these things. And I was like, dude, we have that shit. About a week later, I called in sick then to work on Thursday and Friday. Those are the only days I bartend at the Chatterbox. But I was just like, dude, I don't want to take this shit to the suburbs if I just don't want to hurt anybody. So I called in sick. And I only work 2 days a week and make pretty good money. I never call in sick, but I was just like, fuck this. And then that Monday, I lost my sense of taste and smell in a way that I had never, like, it never had happened before. We were, like, eating then. Like, we had a few meals, and I was like, yeah, this needs more salt or something, whatever. I didn't even think about it. But then Julia went to bed that night, and we hadn't left the place in a week, so I was like, driving around, see what it's like. Things were already kind of shutting down. Mm-hmm. And I was like driving around a little bit, and I was like, fuck this shit. I was like, I'm going to go to McDonald's. You know, I'm fat. So I was like, let's go to McDonald's. It was like 2 a.m. I got sausage, egg McMuffin, and French fries.
That's it.
And when I tasted the sausage, egg McMuffin, it tasted like mush. And then the French fries tasted like mush. And so to me, that honestly scared me because I'd never experienced anything like that. It wasn't, and I went home and I was like, this is fucked up. There's something fucked up about it. I was like, I have this shit for sure. I don't know what's going on. And then now we know since that's also a major, that's a thing is that people lose their sense of taste and smell. So I'm 99% sure we had it. We were sick for about 2 weeks. And, I'm grateful that it wasn't any worse than that. So.
Yeah, it's weird because you hear like your symptoms, but then you also hear like it hits the older people differently too, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean I think everybody it hits differently. I'm of the opinion that it's been here since January or something like that, and that a lot of people had it already. It just wasn't that big of a deal. But I've talked to a lot of people who were like, oh yeah, I was deathly sick in February. I'd never been that sick before in my life.
You there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, you just froze. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it takes a lot for me to get. I got 2 little kids, and they're gross all the time, and it takes a lot for me to get sick. But yeah, I have felt the fatigue. I have felt that, but that's who knows. That could just be from being bored out of my mind and not being physically active either the last month or so.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that if I wasn't if we weren't at a wedding that feels like the epicenter for a lot of it, where people for sure had the coronavirus there, they for sure got the test and had the thing, then I don't know how I would feel about saying that. But all those things together, I feel pretty confident saying, "Oh yeah, we had it." And so I think my experience is just probably different than a lot of people's because I'm not afraid about that stuff at all. We wear masks everywhere. Um, but that's mostly like just so that people feel comfortable. They don't look at us and say like, "Oh, these fucking boneheads don't give a shit about anything."
Yeah.
So we wear masks everywhere, and yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm a bartender, just like Scott. We're both in the bar business and we're both in comedy, and both of those things I think are done for the rest of 2020 at the very least.
Yeah, I could see bars coming back kind of like the same way like restaurants are doing it, where it's like a 25 to 50% capacity or something like that. But then what are you gonna do? Put a time limit on somebody too? Like,
It's not the bar I work at is a fucking bar.
yeah,
So we're in like phase 4. We're not coming back till concerts are coming back, basically.
yeah, which will probably be. I heard it's like summer of next year, maybe. Which is
That's
that's
what I'm
awesome.
saying. We don't. I mean, I don't trust the federal government at all.
No.
But no, I don't think really anybody does. That's the thing about this too. Is it's like a lot of us are waiting for permission, but who's going to give us permission for anything anyway?
Yeah.
Even for me, I'm 99% sure I had it. A couple that we're very good friends with, they got the antibody test. They were at the wedding, and they were confident they had it. They got the antibody test, and they for sure have antibodies now. But I'm like, well, shouldn't us four be able to hang out together still? But we're also just too smart to be. I mean, nobody's pulling the trigger yet.
Yeah,
Nobody's.
we like our neighbors. They have a. She's like the same age as our oldest, so she's almost 4, and like we see them, but we're not. It's the same thing. Like we're outside. If they do come in our house, it's usually because like one of the kids ran in the house. We got to get them out. We're not like hanging out, but like we see my sister and brother-in-law pretty frequently. Like,
And they come inside and stuff.
dude, we spent a weekend at their cabin with them.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like if we're all open and taking the same precautions, and we know each other, and you can trust that person, you should be able to hang out with people. But
Well, that's what I'm saying is there's and we're not gonna the government's not gonna give us some official like go to do that. But I do think that if you're an intelligent, smart person, you take all the same precautions that we should be able to get like a 10-person or 6-person pods and groups like that where we just agree to be safe and that we're the people that are going to see each other. Of course, there's a risk with that, but it's like how long are we supposed to wait? Are we going to wait for the vaccine? Like I'm not going to do that.
no, and like, how do you treat the people that don't want to get vaccinated?
Well, you don't hang out with those people, is but I mean, but that is true. There is going to be. I mean, I really do think America, we're just kind of done with all this stuff. Like that's come out with Georgia lying about the numbers of just so that they can open up early.
Yeah.
But that means if we have people that are that awful that they will lie about those things, they've obviously lied about elections. And nobody's facing any repercussions. If America was the great experiment, the experiment is over. We've lost. Democracy shouldn't be a thing because too many people are stupid. That kind of stuff is like, I don't like to think about it that much, and I'm not even a cynical person, but I don't know how you can't be cynical when you look at our president and a lot of the government at this point.
Yeah, it enrages my wife when I say this, but I was like, this kind of proves that we just don't need. I mean, obviously, I don't know. I was gonna say we don't need a president, but like, yeah, if you didn't trust the government before, this is your ultimate, like, fuck these guys. Because I'm the same way, where it's like, I like Newsom, but now it's kind of starting to be like, all right, dude, like, come on, man, fucking knock it off, you know? So,
Well, it's like nobody's really willing to take responsibility for everything.
Yeah.
Even with California, yeah, like Newsom, that was dope that he shut down everything so early. I do believe he saved thousands of lives. But now he's starting to say, well, it's up to each county, and it's like, what? Am I supposed to trust Mayor Garcetti now? It's like, what? Fuck.
yeah, like, I don't think that the mayor of, some little farm town in the middle of California is going to be listening to Newsom and he's going to be like, fuck these guys. I guess there was a bar by us that never really fully shut down. They were still operating.
Are they still operating?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I think they may have got caught, but they were one of the last ones. I've talked to a lady at drop off at daycare, and she was like, yeah, no, the place by you was still open a few weeks ago. And that was like Friday of last week. So, yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, there's just too many dumb people who don't believe in science, but also because of everything that's happened with Trump and disinformation. And I just think there's a lot of I don't want to call them dumb people, but it's confusing sometimes to know what the truth is.
Yeah, I went to, I was kind of driving around today, and I went and got a sandwich at Jersey Mike's, just because I like Jersey Mike's. It's pretty and I walked in with my mask on, and nobody in Jersey Mike's had a mask on except for the people making the sandwiches. And I kind of did that. I just like, all right. And I took my mask off, and it was so weird. It was really weird. It was a really weird feeling, kind of like, this is so bizarre, like kind of liberating in a weird way. But then at the same time, like, I felt pretty gross. But
well, yeah, you could have got sick.
Nah, could have.
Well, you might be sick.
I took a shower when I got home, and I washed my hands and everything. So
sure, yeah,
I'm probably fine.
I mean, that's the other part. That's the other thing is this too. Is I'm truly not. I don't give a shit if like people. I'm not trying to judge who's wearing masks or who's not doing things safe. The thing is just too out of control already. So it's like, I don't care. And, I am saying that, A, because I don't have kids, so I can say stupid shit like that. And also, I believe I've been sick already, so I'm not worried like that. So, I also understand if you're a very anxious person and you're scared about this stuff. I can't imagine. I'm not someone who deals with anxiety like that. But if you're an anxious person, you're stuck inside, and you're scared about being sick and dying and your loved ones dying, it's a terrible time for you,
Oh, yeah, man. It's going. People are losing it. And that's the thing. Like, I feel like they're rushing it because they don't want people to just start losing it and rioting and, hey, let's start opening up again. I don't want to have to make an example out of some town, by sending the military in or something like that. So, but yeah, my kids are the only ones that I'm concerned about. And my wife, I guess. But yeah, our kids are still in daycare. They're going, but there's only like 2 to 3 other kids in the daycare, and they do like half days. So, but it's not the most ideal situation, but in order for us to work from home and stuff, we kind of had to do it. And it's good for them too. They need the structure because they were just going nuts. So, but so you don't think comedy's coming back till next summer at least?
I just don't know. When I say comedy, I'm someone who does a lot of independent shows. That's the scene I roll in. So the bars that you would have these things in, the black box theater, we're talking about groups of like 50 to 100 squished into a thing. That's the ideal situation. Mm-hmm. The Chatterbox is our show, and it's one of the best shows in Los Angeles. And to me, that's 75 people squished into a little bar. It's just not happening soon. Even if the Chatterbox were to open, I feel differently right now than I did 4 weeks ago. So who knows what that's going to be like? But I don't know how comfortable I would feel telling people, "Oh yeah, get a bunch of us in this room," and and somebody gets sick at a show. I'd feel awful.
Yeah, you don't want that on your hands. That's yeah. It sucks, man, because it's something that we need right now. Everyone wants to be laughing and having fun and doing stuff, but you can't, like I think
Yeah.
I've watched almost every stand-up special on Netflix. So
There's definitely a way. I have a couple of ideas and things I'm working on to do more stuff online. I've done a bunch of Zoom shows. I've done like 8 or 9 Zoom shows. It doesn't feel like stand up at all, but hopefully it helps people. For me, it doesn't feel like stand up. But yeah, I also, even if when they get a vaccine and everything, I just think life's going to be different now. So we're going to have to figure out ways to work at a distance. I think handshakes are over, stuff like that. I don't know. We'll see.
yeah, I did shake a guy's hand the other day, and I didn't want to, man. Like I was down visiting I've broken all the rules. Like I'm sticking to all the rules, and then I'm like slowly breaking them too. But I was hanging out with my brother, and his gardener showed up, and he's like, "Oh, hey man, what's up? Good to see you again." I don't think I've ever met this dude before in my life. And he's like, "How's it going?" And he shook my hand. I was like, "Man, I don't want to." All right, whatever. So
I've told one person this. I'll tell you, Steve, because I think you'll understand, but I haven't said this in any of my podcasts. But I like went aggro on some guy the other day. We go for like 2 or 3 mile walks, like 4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah.
Just to get out and exercise and stuff. And we were walking the other day and I saw this sign at a liquor store, and it's just a hilarious sign with the variety of things on the sign. And I kind of had to like stand in the gutter to kind of take the picture to get the thing.
Yeah.
And then there's this like a Mexican guy who looks kind of like a cholo who like kind of like pulls up like he's gonna make a right. And I'm not in the street, but I'm kind of in the street. He didn't have to do this, but he started honking at me, but he's right there with me. And I'm like, dude, just go around. I was just like, I'm not in your way. And he's just like, come on, man. He's just like doing that kind of thing to be like, come on. And I'm like, just go around. I'm not in your way. And he's like, he just won't let it be. And I was like, dude, if you want to pull over, you can fucking go pull over right now. We could do. So he pulled, like he went around the corner, and I looked at Julia and I was like, I don't know why this is happening. And it's completely my fault.
Yeah.
This has happened like a couple of times. I went to the grocery store too, where I was just like, I just think it's because we've been inside so much. And also I'm playing a lot of like fighting video games too. Yeah. So I think it's just easy to get aggro.
Yeah.
But I looked at Julia and we waited for like 10 seconds and I was like, well, I think I'm going to have to fight this guy now. And I was like, let's go. And so I was like, it's not like there's no place to go. It's like, let's go. So I go, and I kind of was hoping he had driven away, but he had parked in the liquor store parking lot, and he's like, he's walking up to me, and I'm like, all right, let's fight. And, I have access to the way I act. The reason why I'm acting like that is because as a bartender, you have to act like that sometimes just to have control of the place. But I'm in Los Angeles. There's fucking no reason to be doing that. Like, this guy could have a gun or anything. But I was just like, well, I guess I got to fight this guy. So he's walking up to me, but then he's just like, hey, man. He's like, you're standing in the street. He's like, I just don't. He's like, I just didn't want to hit you or whatever. And I was like, well. And Julia's like, you saw he was there. Julia's like going to get in the fight too.
Yeah.
I love about her. She's like, you saw he was there. You didn't hit him. He's like, but I might have, And I was just like, hey, man, you're right. I'm wrong. I was being an idiot. I'm sorry about that. I know you were just looking out for me, so I'm sorry. Yeah. And so he was like, all right. And we shook hands then. So to me, it felt like the right thing to do to shake the guy's hand. But, I mean, I was so ashamed walking home after that, too. I just was like, what the fuck was I thinking? What a fucking idiot. But I really do think it's just because we've been in the house for so long. I think it's affecting us in ways we don't understand because we're so used to being social animals.
Yeah, you guys are, you're always out and about doing stuff. And now all that stuff has come to a complete stop. So it is like, I've seen this too, where like you run into somebody and even if you don't know them, they just start talking to you. And you're like, fuck, man. Like, oh yeah, you've probably been alone by yourself or like with the same idiot for months and days and weeks now. It's like, yeah, you're just excited to see somebody else.
Yeah, it's so funny. We know, I'm lucky enough to have, I'm partnered up. So I have my, girlfriend who I love and we get along and we're having a blast and we're grateful that we don't have to worry about a lot of things at this point. Yeah. But there's people out here especially that are just alone and have been alone And so those kind of people, I just don't even know what they're going through right
Yeah, I'm on a pretty intense group text with Scott Lurs and Chris Holder and Rusty Jordan, and there's definitely been some pretty wild ones where in the beginning of this I was like, maybe like a week or two, and I was like, this probably wouldn't be so bad if you were single, and then it was just like everybody responded back like, what the fuck are you thinking? You can't be alone in times like this.
now.
I was like, I guess you're right. Like you probably wouldn't. I don't know. You wouldn't be able to do anything. It's weird. So, hey, do you remember the first time we met?
Was that the time when we watched Cocktail at Travis's house?
I don't know. I just remember it was at Travis's house, and we were up in that room that they had all the CD artwork up, and you were just going wild on religion. You were like screaming at everybody about religion, and I think you were drinking Jack Daniel's straight out of a cup.
Oh my
And then
God.
it was super intense because I was like, oh, I'd heard about you, but I didn't. But I never met you. So then it was kind of like, oh, that's Steve Hernandez. And it was just super intense. And then you were just like, all right, I gotta go to work. And you got up and walked and went like to TGI Fridays.
Was I saying things that were pro-religion?
No, I think you were just, I don't know. It was just really intense.
Yeah, I mean those early TGI Friday, all TGI Fridays days were pretty bad. I mean, good. Those are my 20s. We used to get drunk and go to work. Me and Travis and Spade bought $1,000, bought 100 ecstasy pills and just kind of did them ourselves for a month. And yeah, I mean, when I think about that, I haven't drank in about a year and a half now, but I've taken like year breaks and stuff like that. But those early years, we had a great time. I mean, we went fucking hard.
Yeah. Is it true that you flipped the car in the
Yeah.
That's true.
It's a legendary TGI Fridays story.
Okay.
And it's funny, before that happened, it was one of the best days of my life. I woke up that day, and I was still drunk from the night before, but I had to go to school. I had like a couple of classes at community college. And so I was like, well, if I'm going to go to school and I'm pretty drunk still, I may as well like stay drunk. So like at 11 or something, I think I got like a big like liter of Pepsi or something like that, put like half a vodka in there and then filled it up with soda, and then went to class. And at class, I was like answering all these questions and doing a big discussion.
Yeah.
We had a philosophy class, and there was a girl that I always thought was cute before, and she kind of sat behind me. But I was drunk. I was talking a lot in class, and then I was like, "Hey, you want to go get a drink at Marie Callender's?" This was at Citrus College, right by APU. And she's like, "Sure." And so we went to Marie Callender's, and then we got drinks there, me and that girl, and then we like made out there.
Oh.
And I was like, "Oh," all right, I gotta go. We made out. She left, and then I had to work at 5 at TGI Fridays, and I've been drinking all day. I was drunk the before. I remember telling Jonas, one of our buddies who works at Chatterbox still, he was working the back bar, and I was just like, Jonas, I was like, I've been drunk all day. I've had the most amazing day. I don't know if I'll ever be sober again. And so I'm serving tables, having a blast. A guy named Jesse comes in to give us breaks. And that was like a shift at TGI Fridays where you had to come in like once a month and just kind of like give everyone a half-hour breaks. You work for like 3 hours. People give you like $5. You make $30, but it's just everybody has to do. It's kind of a drag.
Yeah.
And he was like, I told him, because BJ's was in the same parking lot as us, and we knew all of the BJ's crew. Like my sister worked at BJ's, and I knew all the guys over there. And I was like, dude, I got to go drink over at BJ's on my lunch break. And I told him, I said, Jesse, here's $20. I'm going to take an hour break. I'll be back. And it's like, fine. So I go drive. It's a mile away. It's a huge parking lot. I drive to the BJ's. I walk in. I see my boy Matty there, and he's a good guy. And he pours me this pint glass of Tanqueray, basically. Oh. And it's the last thing I remember. So now I'm going to just tell you from what people have told me. And, obviously this is terrible, and I was a terrible human being. Yeah. But this was a long time ago. So and nobody got hurt. So thank God.
Yeah.
It's okay to talk about this in a funny way. But I must have driven back. Jesse said he tried to call me. He couldn't get a hold of me. So who knows how long I was at BJ's. But, I mean, I must have just was gunning it back to fucking Fridays at some point. My friend Aaron, who was smoking weed out like in his car and saw this happen. But I don't know how fast I was going, but I hit a like pylon, one of those hard plastic, almost cement pylons, hit it and flipped my car like the front over back outside of the TGI Fridays. So yeah, just straight fucking flipped over like that. And then he was like, "Oh my God, that's Steve's car." So he went and ran out, and he like saw me like pulling myself out of the wreckage, and he said I was just laughing hysterically. and then he was like, "Oh shit!" Like he didn't know what to do, so he went and ran inside. There was my friend Brian Leinbach, who's there, who I still talk to, and this manager was there. I don't want to say his name just in case, but everybody kind of knew. The manager was very cool, and everybody liked me there. But the manager was just like, somebody was like, "Oh, I think Steve hit his head, and he's acting crazy." And I was telling Brian, "Oh, dude, it's over. Like, I'm fucking cooked. It's done, man." But he's like, "Just shut the fuck up." And so the manager went and got a bunch of the cooks and the bussers, and they went and flipped my car over. Like, they just turned it around, and they put it in a spot.
Yeah.
And then so Brian was like, Steve hit his head. He can't work. And somebody was like, "I'll stay for him. You know, it's fine." And then somebody just gave me a ride home.
Wow.
And I just did not get in trouble. So the next day, I talked to my manager, and she was real cool. And her and I had some stuff on her too. And she looked at me and she's like, "So what happened yesterday?" And I was like, "Yeah, I just wanted to get a salad at BJ's." And then she's like, "Steve," she's like, you're gonna have to do better than that, man." And I was like, "All right, I went to go visit my sister." And then she's like, "All right, okay." And just nothing happened. My car was total, but I was living like in such a stupid way then that I was like, it didn't even affect me. So
yeah, it's always weird. Like, obviously, I think that whole kind of party crew that we ran with in LA has those stories, like more than once you kind of start thinking about them too, you're like, God damn, like those are crazy stories. But yeah, I don't know that that's a pretty amazing. Is that one of those things that kind of led you to quit drinking?
No, I mean, that was what, 14, 15, 16 years ago. So yeah, no, I kept drinking forever. I would take time. I don't know what I think about the term alcoholism or anything like that. I do know that for me, when I stopped drinking, I broke my brain in those days, those TGI Friday days and stuff. I mean, we just we partied so hard so that I would black out like pretty regularly. But I feel like I got pretty in control the past for a while. And like I would black out maybe once or twice a year, which is still not okay. But I just knew at some point, finally I blacked out at a party. And I said a bunch of like gross things to like somebody I barely knew, a woman I barely knew. And the past couple of years, I've really been trying to work on my relationship with women and the plight of women and all these things that they have to go through. And I'm trying to be a better man in that respect. And I was just like, the person that I'm trying to be and then the guy I am when I black out, they just do not line up at all. I can't help that I act like a fucking savage animal, like a fucking caveman when I'm blacked out. So I just can't drink again. And even now, if I think about, because when the quarantine first started, I was like, dude, I don't know how I'm going to not drink. It feels like the end of the world. And I don't know how I'm going to not drink during this. And at that point, there'd been like 14 months or something like that. And I was just like, I just don't know how I'm going to do it. But, I read I got a friend named Devin Faraci, and he's a really great writer. And he wrote a post about sobriety like a week later. and it just like touched me in a really good way. And I was just like, all right. But without that post that he wrote, and I still haven't told him this too, so I got to hit him up. But I give him $10 a month for Patreon, so that's thanks enough.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
this
that's
motherfucker.
enough right there.
But that was like, all right, okay, that's fine. But yeah, but now I know even when I get tempted to drink again, it's just that I know at some point, maybe not right away, but within a year or 2 years, I'm gonna black out, and I could say some very hurtful things to another person.
Mhm.
It could be a friend, or worse, it could be a stranger. And thank God I haven't physically done anything harm to anyone. But yeah, I just don't want to be that person. And it's been a year and a half now almost, so I feel really good about the whole thing. And there's just I don't have to worry about anything anymore. I don't have to worry about being a jerk or apologizing or feeling stupid. And it's a big weight off my shoulders. So I'm glad I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. It's definitely something that I struggle with. I definitely was partying pretty hard at the start of this, and then I'll just kind of reserve it to like maybe one night a week, kind of depending on what's going on. So
Yeah, I mean, I think our crew, that TGI Friday crew plus that APU crowd, I think it was just a nice little interesting mix. I think, you're definitely one of the like most natural, funny guys, and Rusty is one of the most natural, like you guys are like hilarious, normal guys. And we just had a nice little fun, great mix. If we could all get out of this thing and be successful human beings, then I'll feel like we got away with something.
oh yeah, man. It's yeah, I was just kind of reminiscing with my brother-in-law this weekend, just like crazy stories. And you're like, it kind of goes back to that thing. We're like, man, we didn't get in trouble for any of that shit, but
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a DUI. I deserve 1,000 DUIs.
oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, man, that's cool. It's a year and a half. It's like I said, it's definitely something that it kind of freaks me out every once in a while. Like I drank pretty hard last night, and then you're like, oh, that sucks. It was just me in the living room alone watching YouTube and then making chicken nuggets and then feeling like garbage all day today.
Well, I mean, I think everybody just always has to re-examine the relationship with alcohol. It's a drug. It's poison. If you could get away with it, then, I mean, get away with it for as long as you can. But at some point, your wife's you're going to see the light leaving your wife's eyes, and you're just going to have to like throw in the towel. And then you'll be like, I should have done that a long time ago. Like I genuinely like my life, and I like who I am.
Mhm.
But when I drank like that, that's just like a bad habit. I feel that carried over, that just didn't serve me anymore. Like this, it's not fun anymore. It was just something I got fucking stuck doing.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that I've been able to like snap out of it. But when people drink, it's not like I don't want to drink all the time. I just can't drink normal. So
Yeah, that's kind of my thing. It's, anything worth doing is worth overdoing, I guess. And that's where I run into the problem with it. But yeah. And they always say like, I mean, I'll probably get some shit for this, but people say when you have kids, it makes you less selfish. And I kind of feel like that didn't work for me. It kind of made me a little bit more selfish.
Oh my God. How did it make you more selfish?
I think it was just kind of like, wait, what about me now? Like I used to be able to do whatever I wanted, even like we've been married for like years now. And before we had kids, you could do whatever you want. So I think I was still kind of in that headspace of like, no, I'm going to go to the bar, or I'm going to go to this concert. And it's like, no, we have a kid now. You can't do that. So it's definitely taken a lot of restraint, I guess, on my end to kind of keep that in check,
Yeah, I mean, thank God for your wife. I'm sure she's a saint. It's part of why I don't want to have kids. I might end up, because I just really, I mean, that's why I don't like pets, because I want to do whatever the fuck I want to do.
Yeah.
And all those things just take so much responsibility. We'll probably end up having kids, though, too. I do think it's probably one of the most, like, from what I understand, the most, like, it's the biggest part of the human experience. So I think I might want to experience that too. But if I can get away with not having them, that'd be pretty cool too. Maybe.
Yeah, no, they're rad. Like mine are 2 and 4, and they're to the point now where they make each other laugh, which is rad. Like they play together, they have like their little like jokes they play on each other, and they trick each other. So that's pretty cool. And I taught them the whole pull my finger thing. So we got my wife is super stoked on. Hey, so your brother is kind of like he's this huge not hairdresser, but
He's a
he's kind
colorist.
of a colorist.
Yeah.
To the stars.
Yes.
Yeah. That's just a really it's really interesting to me because I'll like look at his page and I'm kind of like, all right, I get it, but like, I mean, it's cool, it's rad. Like he's not the only guy doing it, but he's probably the most popular guy doing it, right?
I mean, yeah, it's funny. He's like a huge deal, and he's just my brother.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does Kanye's hair. Whenever you see Kanye's hair done with any color, any of the kind of color stuff that he like created this genre of colored hair like 15, 16 years ago. I remember him doing this. And did you ever party with him?
I think I've met him a couple times.
Yeah, my brother's like he's as out of control as us when he drinks too, or he doesn't do that anymore. But he was school on the GI Bill. He was a Marine.
Oh wow!
And he was just dating somebody at the time who was a high. And we grew up with this girl. She was just worked at a high end salon in Beverly Hills. So when he was in the Marines, he would just go with her and like fucking assist her and stuff. He would always like do barber stuff for all of our friends were in high school and things, but he just got into hairdressing that way. So it's just, and the fact that it's come to this is just, it's very bonkers. He did he does Charlize Theron's hair regularly. He did her hair for the Oscars and for the Golden Globes. But it's still just, he's still just my dopey brother. Like he'll talk to me about conspiracy theories about the government. I'm like, Danny, just shut the fuck up. It's just, yeah, it is. He was in the September issue of Vogue. He had a Sunday New York Times like profile on him. But I mean, I'm just grateful that I don't have to worry about him financially or anything like that. My older brother's the same. We came from, my dad was a drunk and he was abusive. We get along now, and he had a very fucked up childhood, but there's no reason why we should all be doing, me and my siblings should be doing as well as we're doing. But my older brother's an architect. My sister's a really incredible stay-at-home mom who works at the school and all that shit. And I mean, I'm doing very well and I'm very happy. So, I don't know why it worked out that way, but I am grateful. And I am grateful I don't have to. My brother has a very cool girlfriend now who's running his life in a really strict way that he needs. And so I'm really grateful for that stuff too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, how many podcasts do you have? You have like 3 or 4, don't you?
I have 3 podcasts. I'm going to start my 4th and final one pretty soon, as soon as I get my unemployment money. I have Who's Your God with Amy Miller. Amy Miller's a very funny comedian. She opens up for Segura all over the country. And that's our religion podcast. It's called Who's Your God. I have a movie podcast called Views from the Vista with Zed Kutzinger and Honor Nezzo, his wife. And we used to review movies at this local theater that's like it's like a historical landmark. It's my favorite movie theater in the world. But that's kind of on, I mean, we're just reviewing like old movies now because no new movies are coming out.
Yeah.
And then I have The Male Gaze, which is kind of like a postmodern new man, horny news podcast with Brody Reed, Alan Strickland Williams, who just put out a Comedy Central half-hour special, and then my buddy Zed again. So
yeah, Alan's pretty hilarious. I just started following him, and that he's got some pretty funny shitty posts out there.
Oh, Alan's really funny. He's going to be huge. I mean, he's already, like I said, he already had his half hour, but he's like one of my favorite people and funniest comics, and he's super horny like me. And so, we get along very well. we've had group sex together. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. No,
But it's just kind of that one's really fun too. And we just talk about news. I believe there's like I'm a big Rogan fan and everything like that, but I think there's a new kind of man too that's not being spoken to, and me personally, I'm trying to address that stuff. That's kind of post everything. So like I love Rogan. Don't get me wrong. I love his shit. I think he's brilliant. But he doesn't really have any women on. I mean, he has Dr. Rhonda on every now and then, but he doesn't have relationships with women. I identify as queer. He doesn't really fuck with queer people that much either. And I don't think it's because he hates any of these people, but I think he's just too old, and it's just something that he just doesn't have to deal with. He's not going to do that. But
I think he kind of like maybe doesn't say stuff the right way when he talks about like, because didn't he get in trouble for like some transgender comments? And it wasn't like he was like bashing them. I think he just maybe said it a little bit aggressively, and it wasn't.
Well, he didn't do things fast enough for a lot of people. He was saying, I was listening to him. I remember he was saying tranny like as late as like 3 or 4 years ago. But he did say, you know what, I'm going to stop saying that. I don't want to hurt people's feelings.
Yeah.
He also said he's got this big thing where he says, hey, man, you can do whatever you want to do, but in sports, they shouldn't be able to compete the same. And people don't. The trans community does not like that. I agree with him. He had my friend Adam Conover on from Adam Ruins Everything. And Adam did a really great job. And I know Adam's very liberal and to the left. And just the fact that Adam went on, I thought was pretty cool. But Joe kind of shredded him for that stuff too. Joe also doesn't believe that you should give kids hormones when they're kids. And I happen to agree with that too. So these things are like the trans community and the far left outrage community doesn't kind of agree with those things at all.
Yeah.
To me, it makes it's common sense. And I think there's probably a lot of trans people that would agree with him too, but we don't hear from those people either. So
do you think he doesn't really get in trouble for that shit because he's kind of his own island?
Yeah, but he also just doesn't care about that group. So you can't get in trouble if you don't care about it. And also if you're wildly successful. Like Chappelle doesn't give a shit about them either, so he'll keep making the jokes.
Yeah.
I happen to think in Chappelle's case that he's not really doing it because he has anything against trans people. I think there is something to be said about I got to be careful how I say this. And also, I don't really know exactly what I'm saying, so I don't want to say the wrong words.
It's cool. Nobody listens to this.
I know, but still, even for me, as I'm articulating it, I want to make sure that I'm saying it right. I don't think, fuck, man, I've never said any of this stuff publicly, but I think trans people are a separate kind of people. I think it's almost like a third gender. So I don't think that when you transition, if you're born a man and you transition to a woman, I don't think, oh, you're just a woman now. And I know trans people would be furious about that, and I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings or be mad about that, but I just don't think that's the case. I think they're a separate thing. So I think I think a lot of straight guys, you know, they might not be attracted to a transitioned woman, and that's okay. And a lot of trans people and people to the left would be upset by that comment. I just don't see that to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, dude. The whole like cancel culture, woke stuff, like it's, I get it, but I feel like it's out of control too. Like, I don't know that.
That's what I mean with Chappelle. Is to him, I think he's just saying, listen, you can do what you want. I'm going to love everybody, but you're not a woman. You're not a regular woman. And that's what he believes. That's what a lot of people believe. But there's also a lot of people who are fucking furious at that statement. And so for him, he's like, dude, you're just never going to convince me of this. I think that's why he kind of picks on trans people so much, is because it's not the trans people. It's the fact that don't tell me that the thing I believe is the truth. It's just not the truth anymore because it hurts your feelings.
Yeah.
And so I really do think with Chappelle specifically, that's why he keeps talking about trans people. And I actually think it's to the detriment of his comedy. I think like, this is the third special in his row where you keep talking about trans people. I'm like, dude, just let it go because it's not funny anymore.
Yeah, he definitely the three that he put out were solid, but yeah, I know what you're saying. We're kind of like, all right, dude, we heard on the first one. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
It's not lazy, but yeah, it does kind of seem like he's just kind of baiting them and kind of trying to keep
Yeah.
it going.
And for some people, I think for some people, they think comedy is saying the naughtiest thing they could say.
Mhm.
I think there's a huge swath of comedians and people who listen to comedy who are just saying, I'm going to say the naughtiest thing I can say and get away with it. And it's like, hey, man, whatever. That's not why I do comedy or what I like about comedy, but a lot of people do.
I know you mentioned you run in kind of the independent circuit. Is doing a special, like a televised, it's obviously one of your goals, right? Or is it not something that's really?
I mean, I would just want to do it for the money. Probably. There is I used to think, yes, that's completely the goal is to look at an album like a book almost. So like as an author, I'm just going to keep putting out books and writing new books. But who knows? I just don't think it's foreseeable anymore. I recorded an album in Portland a couple of years ago, but because I'm in LA and I don't really see myself leaving in LA, stage time is so hard to come by. And so the two times I performed a 7:00 show and a 10:30 show, and I had only done that hour, maybe I think that was like the 6th and 7th time. And the first show or the second show, this is my album recording. I came up with a couple of bits just because we don't have time to do an hour, so your brain doesn't have time to relax and write new things.
Yeah.
I came up with a couple of bits that are today some of my best bits now, and it was just on a whim. So even then I was just like, this stuff's just not done. It's not ready. I haven't had the opportunity to do an hour a bunch of times to let my brain really air these jokes out. So I didn't put out that album. But I don't know in the future if that's what is going to be even important to me anymore. So we'll see. I guess we'll see what happens.
I talked to Scott about this. Did you see that Robin Williams HBO documentary that came out maybe like last year or late?
I did not. I didn't.
Dude, I was never a Robin Williams fan. I always found him pretty annoying, except for in like Mrs. Doubtfire. But dude, that guy was. It's pretty impressive watching him. He's just riffing the whole time. He was just improv. But they talked to the producer of one of his specials, and he's like, he did 20 warm-up shows, like material the same night, right? The night they filmed, he had like 30% new material, just like from one night to the next, and it was just insane.
No, when you talk, hear from old comics about that kind of stuff, they do say that there was just nothing like him in a room. He just would explode and just take over and just destroy a room. So that's what I mean. There's something to be said about that. I know for me, Patrice O'Neill is like my guy. That's the guy I look up to the most, even though I don't agree with a lot of the stuff he says, but just the way he was in the moment and the way he was just his most genuine self on stage, I believe.
Yeah. A
lot of these people would see, and I've opened up for enough people to know that if you're doing an hour of comedy, people like half of it. They like material, but they like half of it also for you to be in the moment, in the room. The best comics I've seen do an hour a lot of times are like half material and then half just crowd work. And then that's real magic happens. And people in that room love it. And they really, so that is a huge part of stand-up. So I do think making an album or an hour special is just something different than being really amazing in the room too. Like Robin Williams, I don't know if he has, nobody talks about a Robin Williams album, but I do think he's probably one of the best stand-ups comics that's ever lived, probably. I hadn't seen him before.
Yeah, if you're going to go on like just speed and just the constant creativity, yeah, I would say that. But yeah, I don't know if he's funny that much, but I saw Burr a few years back, and it was that where like half of it was crowd work and the other half was his material. I think it was like for his first Netflix special. It was the one where he talks about having the adopted, the rescue pit bull. It was that one. And dude, he did probably like 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, and he killed it. It was insane. It was like when I saw Louis C.K. a few times too. Same thing. Like where it's another thing when you're just sitting there and someone's just going off for like an hour and a half. You know,
it's just not, stand-up is not its best when you're in the room.
Yeah.
So any album or fucking special you see on Netflix and stuff, I mean, you've been to enough comedy shows now to know that it's just completely different when you're in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is what stand-up is all about. That's why it's so special and beautiful and like the oldest art form. And it won't ever go away, but it's not coming back anytime soon either. So
yeah, I like seeing it in smaller places too, like a bar or like, like when you guys at the Punchline, when you and Scott came up here to Sacramento, we saw Bert Kreischer in Reno at like a theater, and it was weird. It was cool.
It's not the same.
No, it was maybe like 1,000, 1,200 people, but you could tell it was just a different atmosphere too. It wasn't the same as seeing it in a small club. So, and he kind of lost the audience a little bit too.
It's just so, it's just so big. It's an energy thing. I remember when I was a pastor.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Our sanctuary fit 2,500. I was a youth pastor at a mega church, and I remember seeing certain people, and they didn't have whatever the charisma, the energy. They didn't have what it takes to fill the room.
Mm-hmm.
You could see that it stopped at a certain point. We don't understand what that is yet, but I think there is just something about a charisma or energy, and some people could blast that far and some people can't. That's why the best thing for stand-up is a low ceiling, little room. The tighter you get in there, the more the energy, you could just fucking feel it brush over you. We don't understand it yet, but at some point we will. But some people have it, some people don't, and then some nights I'm sure you just don't have it either. So
yeah. How long were you a youth pastor for?
Not long, like a few years, but it's I grew up in that church. So I grew up in that church, and then I was super involved with the youth group. And, when I started going to that church, it was maybe 700, 800. By the time I left it, I think it was up to like 15,000.
Where is it
at? Faith Community in West Covina.
Oh.
So I do think when I say I was a few years, when I graduated, I kind of like dicked around. I worked at In-N-Out for a year after high school. Then after that, they started an internship program for my youth ministry. A guy named Jim Hayford, they hired him in to kind of blow it up. And so I was the first year I was an intern there. After that first year, they moved the junior high pastor out, so I became the junior high minister. Then a year later, the high school minister. Then ultimately Jim Hayford left, and I was over the high school and the college group and the junior high, although we had a junior high pastor and like 50 youth volunteers, like 7 or 8 interns. So that's the only place I did there. So it wasn't like I applied. I never went to school for it or anything. They tried to get me to go to school, but I didn't give a fuck about it. So
don't you have to go to school to become a pastor?
No.
No?
Pastors are nothing. Who gives you a thing?
I don't know. I thought you had to go. I don't know.
No, there's not a governing body or anything.
I never really thought. Well, there's the Lord.
Yeah, which is nothing. So, they wanted me. They were very big on school. So I was like, I believe I was going to, I think Citrus at the time. I was taking some classes, and then they were going to pay for me to go to like APU or something. But this was just all. This is my pastor had an earned PhD. They were just big on education. But I grew up in that church, and Jim Reeve, that was the senior pastor there. He was very smart, and we were very much into the Word, the Bible. I read my Bible all the time, and so I was able to teach from that thing. The same place I get my jokes now. This is the same place I would get my teachings from. So I was very smart about the Bible and leading people and doing fun things. So it wasn't that different from being a stand-up.
Yeah, it's funny. We have a bookshelf above our fireplace, and there's a Bible in there. And I was like, I was looking at there, and I was like, I've never really read the Bible. And I was like, well, what better time than now? But then I started watching Parks and Rec instead. So
I do think I'm going to start like my new podcast that hasn't launched yet. It's going to be called Put It in My Mouth, and it's gonna just cover a lot of things, a lot of intimate things, eating stuff, sex stuff. But I do think it's just part of that. I'm going to get back into the Bible and start putting up little mini teachings, because I don't think the Bible's the inerrant word of God, but I just love it so much. I haven't read it in so long, but I love it so much. I feel like it's a member of my family. And I do think there's a lot of good stuff in there, but you got to treat it like a person, where it's like, oh yeah, I love the Bible. It's like my cousin, but dude, like he's pretty fucked up about a lot of things too.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of good stuff in there. So I might start teaching from it again.
Maybe I'll read it. Like I said, I've never read it. Like, we grew up in church. We were kind of forced to go. And then I went to church camp a few years, Hume Lake. That's where I met Rusty. And like, I was forced to go. I remember like being told, like, get on the fucking bus. You're going to church camp. Like, I was crying. I was trying to think about ways to get home. Like, I was like, if I fall off this balcony, I didn't know anybody. I considered breaking my leg so I can go home early. And then I met Rusty. But yeah, I've just never read it. And like, we always had, I remember 2 youth pastors. One was pretty cool, and then one was cool but also kind of a dick. Like, he took it way too serious too. There was kind of that fine line.
Yeah, I think I was probably kind of both. I was fun, but I was getting paid. I was a paid Jesus basically. But I would like, I broke my Eminem CDs on stage a couple times, that kind of thing. I have a chunk where I talk about some of the stuff I used to do, but I obviously didn't. I was too young. I mean, that's why I quit doing it. I was 22 or 23 when I quit, and I was just like, shouldn't have this much responsibility. At the time, I was getting into drinking some, and I was like having sex with my girlfriend, and I felt really bad about that. And I just left because I was like, this doesn't feel right. I didn't want to be the kind of pastor that gets caught and this huge thing goes down. So I just felt like God wanted me to quit. So, and I do think, if there is a God or that right thing, I think that thing did want me to quit. I don't think that the real God isn't in church really that much anymore. So.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where churches go after this too, right? Because they're going to be treated the same as, well, they should be treated the same as like stand-up comedy clubs or concerts, or I know there's been a few. What?
That's just not true. But they just won't. They're fucking idiots. They think that church and all that stuff is the most, like, comedy's fun and like, oh, I love it, but we're going to have to not be able to do this for a while. Yeah. My mom is still a very hardcore Christian, evangelical Christian. She's cool. I love her. I get along with her. I don't agree with some of the things she thinks, but she's still going to prayer. She's still going to church. And she's like, I need to be doing this. So Christians are fucking idiots, and they will keep doing this dumb shit because they think it's the most important thing in the world.
Yeah, I saw a thing on the news where some church, their landlord had to come in and he changed the locks on the church.
Oh my God.
They kept just showing up and trying to, this was like 2 weeks ago.
Oh my God.
They kept trying to have like open services and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be, I don't know. I think it's going to be an adjustment for them as well, hopefully. But
well, they're not going to use common sense. If you use common sense, you won't be Christian. So
yeah, well, there's that. Yeah, that's true too. So, but well, hey man, I don't want to keep you too much longer. I got to go pick up the kids too. So, but thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Of course, I had a great time. I'm glad to hear you guys are doing well. It was good to talk to you. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
As soon as we can, we'll be back up there again.
Yeah, it was a blast hanging out with you guys, man. Katie still brings it up. She was like, oh, who are you talking to today? And I said, Steve Hernandez. Scott's friend? Yeah. Oh, the guy that was smoking weed in our guest room? I was like, yeah, that's what I told her. I was like, that was all Scott.
You said it was okay. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget I was drunk.
Yeah.
And like your wife was in the kitchen. I was going to go to the bathroom and she was standing there and she was just like, are you guys smoking in there? And I was like, Steve said it was okay, but I just remember the look on her face. It's just straight white woman, like fucking fury. Like, and trust me, for my ex-wife, I know what that looked like.
Yeah, I see it quite a bit too. But hey, so where can everybody find you? Obviously,
I got all my podcasts. You can find me. But if you're on Twitter and Instagram, follow me at Twitter at Big Hern, capital B, capital H, or follow my Instagram at Hernia, HERNIA. But I'm both of those a lot. I'm pretty good at both of them. So go on and follow me and listen to my podcast. But thanks so much, Steve.
Yeah, man. Have a good one. Stay safe, and let me know if you need anything.
You too, bud. I'm gonna just hang up.
All right, man. Later.
Later.